Hello, I'm Anne. I'm Anne Carnell. I'm based in our Geneva office in our airport infrastructure and fuel team. And I'm working on a very broad initiative, which I'll explain to you now, which covers all aspects of IATA's work and across our industry, focused on what's happening at airports and that on-ground experience. We've called it Nextt because it's not just looking at the airport, it's all the technologies across that full journey. And as you'll see later, one of our themes is actually not at the airport. So let's set the scene a little. Let's think of a little bit of a broader perspective across the world and what's happening, trends in other industries, perhaps. A few statistics for us. This one I probably don't need to dwell on. It's been mentioned many times. The only thing I would say is that this is great news. We should be very pleased that we're in a growing industry, and therefore our duty to make sure that those who wish and need to travel, that we enable that and don't constrain it, is actually a very good position to be in. But those people that we're serving have differing expectations now. I know that if you're sitting at the back, this graph might be a little difficult to see, so let me just explain what it's showing. The red line is showing that airline passengers are increasing. From an airline perspective, we just count those passengers once. But if you consider from an airport perspective, you could count those passengers twice because they arrive and depart. So perhaps that number could be double if you're considering the context of the ground portion of travel. The blue line shows how often the average global citizen travels. Back in the 90s, the average global person traveled around every 50 months, so every 4 years. Now, that's around every 2 years. And what that does is mean that those people are more familiar with travel and their expectations of what should happen are higher. And we need to respond to that. It's also very important to note when you talk about this doubling of passengers, that that doubling is not even across the world. And in fact, in China, India, Indonesia, it's tripling. And many airports in China are struggling to build fast enough. Even in China, where they build buildings pretty rapidly, they're opening new terminals that are already at capacity because the growth outstripped the forecasts. We do passenger surveys, so we know what people actually want from their travel experience. And some key elements that are coming out of that is that passengers are increasingly impatient. They care about their time, and they don't like to spend their time in queues. They want to travel in the way that they live their daily lives, so they use their phone for many aspects of that. They want to be well informed, and they want that information to be correct. And they want it to be an entertaining experience. We also did some work last year in association with the School of International Futures to really consider how those passengers, those people, how the world will change and how that will impact our aviation industry. This is fully available on our website, and it's well worth a read to kind of get a differing, broader perspective on the changes in the world and how we may need to respond to those. Within that, it considers 4 different scenarios, and these will have a markedly different impact on our industry, particularly around what happens with security and immigration. And I think that the change in perception just in the last 2 years, I think if I'd got up and spoken 2 years ago, I'd have said that everyone's willing to share their data, and we're all global citizens that will travel freely between countries. However, actually, what's happened in the last couple of years is that countries tend to become more nationalistic, and we have concerns about how our personal data is being used. So our solutions in terms of security and immigration at the airport may need to be quite different in those two scenarios. So just to recap on that context setting, we now have our problem statement. Great, we've got a growing industry, and we need to cater for more people. Those passengers have higher demands and high expectations of what happens when they travel. We will always, as an industry, have to place a priority on making sure that we're secure and safe, and that is not going away, it's becoming even more present. And there is a real need to have trusted and reliable data for both our customers and between us as the agents that are serving those customers. So let's consider that in the context of an airport. If we look at the 100 biggest airports in the world, all but 4 of these will need to expand, either in terms of their runway or their terminal, a major infrastructure project within the next 10 years. I don't find that surprising. In fact, representing airlines, we'd be concerned if that wasn't the case, because that would mean that airports had built unnecessary excess capacity. Airports don't build for the capacity they need in 10 years' time. So it is not surprising that pretty much most airports in the world have major infrastructure projects. However, we don't believe that those infrastructure projects, building new terminals, building new runways, is actually possible and is going to deliver the capacity that we need to serve those passengers. We'll just dwell on that thought, shall we? So, what do? Many of the airports that we currently have can't actually expand. The environmental constraints, even just the physical constraints, mean they can't expand. So we need a new solution. And we believe at IATA that the current approach to deliver that solution is not working, and we need to take a different look at this, which is why we introduced our Nextt initiative. So we look across the board at all the technologies that we wish to implement, be they for cargo, baggage, passengers, or for the aircraft turnaround, that we've integrated those and have created a common vision for how we wish the future to be. I'll just play a little video so you can see a little bit of what we're talking about.
Life will be connected, faster, smarter. What about transport? How will technology process and design transform airports and the journey to and from them? What will the future look like in a world where more than 7 billion people fly every year and where 3,000 freighters transport our goods around? Let's see. Your future journey will begin with booking, capturing identity and data for you and your bags or your cargo. Travel will be hassle-free using conveniently located city centre entry gates and collection services. Real-time communications will be increased across all aspects of the journey. The customer experience will continue to evolve, reflecting and enhancing the way of our daily lives. Passengers will finally be able to personalise their journey from the comfort of their sofa, or even from their seat in the sky. All commodities moved in air cargo will be continually monitored. Advanced processing through automation and robotics will bring unprecedented efficiency. And behind the scenes, connected systems ensures decision-making is based on trusted and reliable data. And this is just the beginning. Let's build the journey of the future. Let's create the travel of tomorrow. Let's make the most of new experience travel technologies. Nextt.
So what does that mean we're doing? We've embarked on a joint venture for this with ACI, and I think it's important that it is an industry consensus vision, that it's mutually beneficial for both an airport and an airline perspective. It's also important that it's not science fiction. It is based on validated concepts, and so we have been partnering with airports that are doing trials, that are testing new technology, testing different ways of doing things, and looking very closely at the business cases to make those changes, and exploring where else we could look to make changes and use technology that's probably readily available, and perhaps needs a regulatory change to make it a reality. It's important to also note that we fully recognize that our visions are not suitable for every airport in the world, that each airport and each location has a different environment, different constraints, different regulatory policy, and therefore will implement different elements of our vision as they see fit. Additionally, this is not just a written in stone vision statement. It's evolving as we validate trials, as we see the experience from the airports and airlines that are doing trials and proofs of concepts, and we'll naturally be updating our statements around what we wish to happen to the on-ground experience and at airports. But what we've come up with so far, we've worked across all of our different domains, be that from, as I say, baggage, cargo, and passenger, obviously, the aircraft turnaround, looking at IT, safety and security. And we've pulled together all the concepts that happen presently at an airport, or that on-ground experience that we would wish to retain. We've looked at those things that are possible, that are pretty probable, that are likely to happen in the next few years, but perhaps the technology is not quite right for the solution that we need it for, or a regulatory policy needs to be adjusted. And then we've sense-checked that by considering the really long-term future, what's really possible. And if we do those present and probable things, are we putting ourselves on the right track to really deliver a future that we want? And what came out of that study, of looking across all the different domains, was a variety of different projects that IATA and ACI are already working on. We've identified some others that we probably need. But they tended to fall into three different categories. Firstly, was you obviously can improve airport capacity if you make some processes not happen there. And there is a shift to move processes off the airport. And you really do consider that in both a digital and a physical sense. The second focus area is around making those processes that have to happen as efficient and swift as they can be. And so this is where the deployment of automation, robotics, artificial intelligence can make sure that we are doing those processes in the best way that we can. And the final theme probably underpins all of this, is that we have the right data, we are sharing and using trusted, reliable sources for that data so that we are making the best decisions interactively and collaboratively across all the different parties that are involved in the process. To make those, to discuss a few examples in each of those categories, let's first of all take the off-airport. I think from a passenger perspective, it's pretty obvious what's already moved off airport. Very few people now arrive at the airport having not checked in and haven't got a boarding card. But can we push that concept even further, that they've actually already dropped their bag off, or their bag was picked up from their home or hotel, and so they've already done their bag drop before they've got to the airport? And then what if they took an airport express train to the airport, and on that train, their security processes happen? So actually, they could go straight to the aircraft. The whole concept of pod to plane is perhaps not going to happen tomorrow, but I don't foresee that it will never happen. And working with a few of the airports, they are looking at how they can integrate better with the cities that they served in terms of those intermodal transport links. It's very important for our airports and air travel to stay relevant that the connectivity of those airports really fits in with the transport network within those cities and the surrounding parts of the country that that airport serves. So of course, if the bag has been dropped off in town or been picked up at home, is it still traveling as baggage? Or is it now cargo? Does it then go through a cargo facility? Or do we still need such massive baggage handling systems in the airport? Part of the nature of this Nextt project is ensuring that we pull together those that are working on baggage and those that are working on cargo to answer those questions, and that we have provided the infrastructure that enables the volumes that are going to go through both of those flows. I think the important element to mention about baggage is to do with baggage tracking. As soon as passengers have better visibility and trust of where their bags is, I personally believe this will profoundly affect what they choose to do with that bag. And so the opportunities and their desire to use in-town facilities to drop off their bag may be higher than we've seen previously because they have that security that they can follow their bag. Now, obviously, there's a regulatory implication of this. We need to make sure that we look to change the policy that puts baggage on the same aircraft as a passenger. If we believe that 100% screening of baggage is effective, and in fact, to be honest, the risk, given the nature of suicide bombers, of having the bag on the same flight as a passenger is slightly different from when that regulation was put in place, perhaps we could say that that regulation could change, and then the airline could choose to send that bag on a flight that is more cost-effective because the passenger is not necessarily wanting it right on arrival, they're wanting it delivered to their hotel at the end of their full day of meetings when they arrive. Let's move on to when you get to the airport, the advanced processes. I think, again, from a passenger's perspective, in terms of passenger processes, we've pushed this quite a lot, but there's still more to do. The fact that we still, when we onboard an aircraft, have to show a passport and a boarding card seems, quite frankly, ridiculous. And so changing that approach so that you use one document would be a first start. And the second approach is that actually, why do I need to show anything at all, and couldn't I be the token? And we've seen many trials of that happening, looking at how biometrics could be deployed for the processes throughout that airport journey. It's also interesting to note the role that governments play in that. Countries such as India that had a very progressive approach to digitalization with their Aadhaar card, so that they made identity a digital format. Granted, we now enter a case where people are concerned about how that data is used. But equally, people do wish, and we see it from our survey findings, people do wish to use a digital passport. But to enable those processes really requires an engagement and a conversation between those border enforcement agencies and the airports and the airlines who are creating the processes. And in fact, both in India and at Schiphol, they have very close collaborations, and the workshops that they hold around biometric use and the one identity is a collaborative workshop with the government very much involved. And that is really important because it means those preconceived ideas from an airline and an airport perspective about what a government is willing to share, accept, and utilize are dispelled because you actually ask that regulator as part of development of your solutions. But when it comes to advanced processing, I think actually our key area needs to be to look across the ramp. From my engineering perspective, I can't actually understand why it hasn't become more automated. Fundamentally, you want synchronization. You want the same thing to happen repeatedly. Is that not a case for automation? And I think there's a wealth of opportunities for how we automate those processes that it's right to automate. I'm not saying that it's just automation for automation's sake, but I think that there is certainly a business case for a lot of those ramp processes to have a more advanced process than they currently do. But none of this will work until we solve the data element of it. It all relies on data sharing. It's a little bit blasé to think that we're all going to use one system, and so that's how we share data. So actually the key is to create the standard that enables the data sharing between all the variety of systems and people that wish to interact with trusted sources of data. So it's like we have to create the USB socket for everyone to plug into. So it doesn't matter what system they're using, but you know that they can interact with your system. From a passenger perspective, this is becoming critical. I'm sure many ground handling agents are horrified when their passenger comes and says, well, you're telling me this flight is only 20 minutes late, but I can see on flight radar that it's actually at an airport 3 hours away, so how is it only going to be 20 minutes late? So we need to make sure we're using the right information and the same information. Again, if the information that the passenger about their options in terms of what they want to happen to their bag, what they want on board, when they're going to arrive at the airport, if those are automatically updated in the system that the ground handling agents can see, then can we be better prepared, better serving those passengers, and more efficient? And then we move on to the operations that actually happen at the aircraft turnaround. In pulling together our vision statements for the aircraft turnaround story, I have to be honest with you. I came more from an airport master planning background and looking at passenger terminal design. I hadn't done much work on ramp operations. And so I didn't really write many statements about this information would get shared with that person. And then it was pointed out to me that when a fueler goes to the aircraft, he doesn't actually know how much fuel. He doesn't get a message to say that this is how much fuel he needs to put in the aircraft. He gets a piece of paper that says that. And he might actually have to just have a conversation with someone. And it seemed crazy to me that the level of communication is not digital, that it's so much of that aircraft turnaround is actually based on paper or verbal communications and not just alert messaging. But again, coming back to that, we need to make sure that we've got the platform in place or the open API, the way of sharing, so that the right people are updating that information and we're all using consistent, trusted data. You can take a look at these emerging concepts on our website. It's next.iata.org, very straightforward. But also, what we've done on that website to bring it to be a little bit more comprehensible rather than just sort of abstract emerging concepts, is written the step-by-step journey for the whole on-ground experience for the 4 key elements that need to move through an airport. So the cargo, baggage, and the passenger. We're just completing the aircraft turnaround story, and I would hope that that will be on the site within the next week so that you can all take a look at it. As I say, we welcome your feedback on this. We want this to be the industry consensus statement so that we're all working towards a common vision. And therefore, your critique of our statements is very important. So in summary, or perhaps just a slightly different way to look at what we're doing under Nextt. At the moment, we have many different initiatives, different systems, but they currently remain a little bit fragmented and siloed. Just to be clear, this is only for illustrative purposes. I'm not claiming that IATA only has 16 projects and new initiatives. But what we're doing under Nextt is bringing those all together, ensuring that they're consistent in terms of the infrastructure that would be needed, and identifying where there's gaps and where perhaps we need to launch new projects that look at the standards that are necessary or the technologies that need development to make sure we have a complete vision for all that happens across the airport and beyond. And as I've stressed many times, the data part of this is key. And so looking at what those platforms are and the way that we can make sure that data is shared is a key part of our initiative. As I say, I invite you to take a look at our website and really do welcome your critique of that, your comments and your feedback. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you so much, Anne.
Pleasure.
My goodness, that was really great. Let me invite to the podium in here our next presenter, Ksenia Kovacic. She's from Qatar Aviation Services. She's manager, airside baggage and transport. And she would have a little presentations for us today. Ksenia, I pronounced it correct? So? Okay. Thank you so much,
yes.
Please.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you are having a great time here in Doha at 31st IATA Annual Ground Handling Conference. My name is Ksenia, and I'm coming from Qatar Aviation Services. So today I will present BagView, our state-of-the-art baggage processing software solution developed in-house between our cost management team and Qatar Airways IT. I will speak about how we started with development of the unique baggage processing solution and what are the latest updates. It was beginning of 2015 when both teams started to think about a tool which will help to have a smooth, seamless and efficient baggage handling processing here in Doha. A tool which will help overcome challenging situations driven by uncontrolled events with smooth visibility for service recovery, of course, when it's needed. A need for baggage forecast, situational awareness, real-time baggage process monitoring, alerts, and of course, service recovery was identified. BagView helps us by providing end-to-end visibility on the baggage operations at airport environment, clearly highlighting the challenging areas and the real-time progress monitoring of each phase of the baggage handling processing. BagView helps us to synergize and collaborate across this unique sub-processing, thus ensuring end-to-end baggage operations efficiency. From the other hand, yes, we have the industry challenges. The baggage handling at hub airports can be considered to be one of the limiting factors for service improvement. With respect to the operational performance of the baggage handling services, one of the key performance indicators is the number of the mishandling bag. The delayed, damaged, and even lost baggage have significant impact to the service quality, the customer satisfaction, and the compensation costs and the throughput of the airports. It's even more difficult having in mind that when you have more than 80% of the transfer baggage flow, the minimum connection time which is available have the significant impact on the operations. Of course, we have the operational challenges as the ground handling providers. They are pretty much standards. The first question is, do we have the baggage flow forecast? Of course, the available infrastructure has a significant impact on our operations, and resource allocation. So how we are controlling our resources during the peak of the operations. In CAS, we identified our business needs, and they are the same like almost all ground handlers are facing every day. My presentation is something is happening because the slides are moving without control, so it should not be automatically changing. Sorry. Slides, they are moving automatically, so I'm not changing them. So can we just stop it? Mm-hmm. We have to go back. Okay. Yeah. Now we will see. Yes. So as I said, we defined what are our business needs. So the first thing which is important for the baggage handling and smooth processing is the baggage forecast. We need to know what will happen during the peak of the operations and what is the actual number of the bags that we have to process. Of course, we need efficient resource planning for quick baggage connections for all bags which have the less connection time than it was expected. So we need to have the tool which will actually help us to influence on the transportation activities. Of course, when we have the high number of the transfer bags which are coming to the airport, we have to give priorities, and we have to define which bag has the higher priority during the connection time. Real-time inbound baggage flow processing using infrastructure resources. So today at the Hamad International Airport, we have 10 transfer in-feeds lanes, which are physically divided in 3 areas. We would like to know how those lanes can be used on the optimum way, having in mind what is the expected baggage flow and, of course, available transportation time between the points at the airport. Of course, we also would like to know what is the last known location of the baggage. At this moment, that is also a very important thing, having in mind the new resolutions, and of course, if we have the information where the bag is located at the airport, we can influence on the baggage processing. So today, BagView, even if the development started in 2015, is the integrated solution of the dashboards and tools that helps to overcome the challenging situations at the airport environment. We have a variety of the real-time data which are actually present in different dashboards. Also, we have the number of the alerts and which can have the possible impact on our operations. Of course, the BagView is the solution that we are actually also using for controlling the resource allocation and improvements also in that area. So on this slide, you can also see how the BagView is working and what are the systems that actually are triggering the information that we are using today the operations. So the BagView is integrated with all the departure control systems that we have, that we are using. The baggage reconciliation system, the airport operation database, baggage handling system. So any information about the baggage is actually coming through the interface to the BagView. We have the group of the baggage teams which are controlling the specific area, processing, during the connection time, and all those groups are using the setup of the different graphs and dashboards, which are, of course, helping us in the operations. So, yes, we have the real-time monitoring of the baggage flow, which is actually happening at the airport. What we didn't have until now, a recent development, is that the bag view also can be visible on the handheld devices like the mobile phone and also the tablets. Yes, this is giving us opportunity to be more flexible and to control the area even if we are not physically there. So the master dashboard, I'm sure that some of you visited our booth and had a chance to see the real-time application. So the master dashboard is our latest development. It's now in a final testing phase. We didn't yet introduce to our team members, but this is the first view of the baggage view when you open the application. The board is actually divided in 3 different lanes. The first one on our left side is everything about the forecast, is everything about what we expected that we will have, the flow, and what is actually happening. On this master dashboard, the data which are present are the data which are the most critical one in the given time frame. We divided the frames in 3 hours, expecting that 3 hours is something that we can deal with, and that is, let's say, our peak time of operations when all of our team members need some additional actions. Also, we have the one box with the alerts. We would like to know how the BSM processing is working. Also, we would like to know what is happening at the transfer in-feed area, at terminating area, and also at the departure room carousels, which are handling actually the real flights. The second, the middle line, is everything about the arrival flights. We have a setup of the alerts with the flights which have the different flight arrival time than it was planned. Also, we have the group of the alerts at the in-feed area. In order to set up the master dashboard, we done some additional checks regarding our processes. So behind master dashboard are our engagement standards, also processing time at the airport, transportation time, everything divided from the off-block till the point when the bags are delivered to the different area for further processing. Also, we have the one event box, which is giving us information if any of the passengers and the bags have to be rerouted or rechecked to another flights. On the right side, there is a line with the departure process flow. Again, the concept is the same like for the arrival flights. We have the group of the alerts. If there is any bag which has to be offloaded, the shift coordinator easily can see what is the number of the flight, and of course, having information where that bag is loaded, and he can provide additional support to the team at the ramp site for the offloading purposes. Also, we have the box which is controlling departure hall area, and whenever we have a situation that the bags are actually discharged from the system less than 45 minutes of the scheduled time departure, if those bags are not collected, reconciled, sorted, and transferred to the aircraft site, we will have the alert for the operational coordinator so that they can challenge the team, or they can provide additional support to the team if they are struggling with the operations. Yes, we have the information about the mishandled bag during the peak, and this information for us is also important, having in mind that all of us having the key performance indicators, the SLA agreement with the airlines, so actually we can control our performance, and in a yes, future events, we can have some additional control of our teams. This is the second interesting dashboard, which is giving us the information about the departure baggage hall area and what is happening. At this moment, we have 24 carousels. On each carousels, we have, during the peak, about 5 to 6 flights. And also we have the group of the teams which are pretty much pre-advanced planned. The question is how we are controlling our resource allocations, and do we have a tool that we can actually influence the events which can impact to our operations. So you can see on, on the left corner, there is carousel number 19 with a red alert. So we set up our operational thresholds. So if we are receiving the more bags from the system, and if that is above our threshold, we will receive the alert. So the operational coordinator can see that actually something is happening on the one of the departure carousels. This information is quite enough to be present so that we can also check what is happening on the other carousels, and do we have possibility actually to reallocate our team members from the carousels which are not occupied to the one which have the critical operational part. We also have the reflighting dashboards. Today everything is about the tracking, but in event when we have the mishandled bag, we also would like to be efficient and to connect that bag as soon as possible. So on one screen, actually, we can track the bag which is mishandled from the moment when the aircraft landed at the airport to the last tracked location of that bag at the airport. Yes, the bag journey is something that we are also considering as a very important thing, and for each bag tag, actually, we can see when is the first BSM message delivered through the DCS system to the bag view. So actually, we can see what was happening, and we can think about the improvements in the future, and we can also provide very fast information to the customer and whoever, whenever it's needed. So the bag view itself, as I said, had more than 30 dashboards, but the important thing is that we can also create our own dashboards. We can monitor the activities which are actually important for us, for the managers, for the operational coordinators. With one screen, actually we are giving the full visibility of the baggage life at the airport. So the bag view for us is the tool that we are using to predict the events, and the tool that we are using actually to control our resource allocation teams and to control our performance. We defined the number of the benefits of the solution. The first one is that actually is very easy to use. The first feedback from our operational team is that they like the tool, and they can see actually the critical parts of the baggage handling on one screen, and they can influence on the final results. Also, in the future, we are thinking to use the bag view for the transportation activities, and how we can also connect the transportation with a given location where we have to deliver the bags. I'm sure that you all heard about our results for 2017. So 2017 we finished with 0.63 files per 1,000 customers. In November we also had very good result of 0.21 mishandled baggage ratio. And of course this is just the beginning of the innovation for the baggage team. And yes, I hope that you liked our solution, but if you want to get more information, you are all invited to come to our booth and we can show you our real-time solution. Thank you very much.
Wow, that is really interested to discussions we had and the presentation. But before I join the ladies in there, which I will join you in a few seconds. I'm a very lucky guy this morning, you know, to have 2 ladies on my panels. Anyway, we are going to present a very quick video that we have received from SATS on loading. So please, let's have the video and then we will go to the den of discussions. Thank you. Hey, perfect. Thank you so much.
SATS, Asia's leading provider of gateway services and food solutions, redefining the aviation landscape with our passion and innovation.
Thank you very much. And now, if you don't mind, we'll go through our little discussion.
No problem.
First of all, sorry for the disruption on the IT and the technology and things like that. That's something we should be looking into our future as well, right?
Yeah, disruption is happening in the ground handling,
My 2 colleagues in here have well presented the, where we start with Anne, about the passenger impact and their experience and the travel between the countries and the data usage.
Yep.
It's very important things that data is an essential part of our business. And if we don't have the data and we don't trust it, and we're not reliable onto that part. Thank you for touching that part. And the entire discussion on the Nextt, and now you know what the Nextt is. I'm not going to translate that. So thanks for showing it up on the screen. We have talked about the IT technologies, and we talk about the infrastructure, that how our business is growing, and the number of passengers in the years to come will be tripling, quadrupling, you know, and we really need to build on an infrastructure where it will brings us the technology where we needed to move forward. However, discussing that with ACI and building it and think is very, very important to involve us as a ground handler, right? You know, we play a vital part in any airport infrastructure to be developed, and our opinion matters, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Great, I like that. And we talk about the data and the digital transformation, where the agility is the key. I spoke about it before, and the speed is very essential, right? We need to innovate, absolutely. You know, if we do not innovate, we will struggle and we will stagnate. We will become, you know, on that line, going like that. So, right? Even I cannot even say the line after the party of last night. Now, another thing we should really know about from the innovation into the training, that is also a major part in any future development that we're gonna be encounter to take and to move on with, because training plays a major role in our industry. New solutions. Yes, this is where we should be looking. And Qatar Aviation Services, Kesnia, you have made a major movement on the baggage, and what you have taken about that dashboard.
Yes.
It's remarkable.
Thank you.
And the number, you know, I call myself, from being station manager, my biggest fear was mishandling baggage. I don't want to arrive to a destination where my bag's not there. Huh? You won't like it. Nobody likes it.
Of course.
Yeah, and then we really need to move, you know, with that big growth now with the passenger and whatnot is coming to our art. We talk about ramp of the future. All of those embed ramp of the future. And just to give you good news that we're moving forward with that, thanks to our ground operation working group, that we took on our priorities and objectives to concentrate on the ramp of the future. And we would like also what Anne said, you know, if you do have any comments or any advice you can give us, please reach out to us, you know, give us your input. We would like to work with the industry. We would like to listen to you, and we would like to work with you. So this is my takeaway from your two presentations. You did fantastic presentations, both of you. SATS, you know, also did a good on aircraft loading. And now we do have a couple of questions for you, probably. And we'll let also our dear delegates in there from the floor also, if they have any questions to ask. I know we are tight a bit on time. I try to move it forward. And I don't know. How are we going to build the future for the next generation? Really, we really need to move that. That's a big question. It needs long discussion. But could you please giving it to us in a nutshell? Where do we go from here?
I think the kind of nature of approach within IATA is slightly shifting. And you'll see that with our Nextt initiative, is that we need to encourage innovation. Yes, successful ideas don't gain traction in our industry unless they happen globally. And so our role is very much to knowledge share those ideas, to give them the traction that they deserve, and follow that up with standards as they're required. And so whilst you know, we're seen as the rule makers, that everyone has to follow. Actually, we're moving into the role to support that innovation and back it up with the detailed work of where the standards need to be put in place.
Fantastic. Innovation, ladies and gentlemen, is the key. Sorry?
Yeah.
Oh, let me answer here first, and then I will get back to you. Thank you for the question. Innovation is the key, and our exhibitors outside and sponsors, they are in deep hands with the innovation. You know, if you can visit some booth in there, you know, to see where are driving us with innovation. And of course, standardization is the key. I will get back to that second question, because you gave me a light bulb on that part. And then, but we really need to go and listen to the question. The question, please.
This question come through on our system here. It's a question for Anne. You talked about security procedures being carried out on trains on the way to the airport. Many train networks are also at breaking point. Are we not just creating a new come point on the passenger journey?
Possibly. I yes, our cities are getting busier, and yes, all aspects of city life is facing constraints. But equally, I think that there's new transport modes coming in, and how they interact with the airport is critical. I think that the way existing infrastructure gets used across an entire city will need to transform. But the message is that we need to be involved in those conversations and not just see the airport as a ring-fenced environment that we only control what happens within that environment, that actually the nature of our business needs to expand a little beyond that and get involved in those conversations, form those partnerships with the urban transport systems.
Any other question before I move to the second question for Anne? No? Thanks, Steve. You talk about the innovation and how we're going to be looking at the innovation in terms of standard setting.
Yeah.
You know, we really need to cope with that, and we have talked about automation, how we're going to do it, and we're going to evade a little bit, be away from human, make it more in technology, automation, and things like that. How do you see the IGOM would fit in this new concept? Where is your thoughts? How can we move the IGOM further on that part?
I think that IGOM, by its nature, reflects what we believe that how the operational procedures should work.
Yeah.
And therefore, naturally, the IGOM, must evolve and is an evolutionary statement of how those processes work. So once we've captured, at a particular airport perhaps, or within a particular ground handling's procedures, if we've found that there's a real business case and a successful innovation project, then we need to look at, well, does that mean that the IGOMs need to change? Or actually, does it fit in, but it's just the interpretation? Because we've used the word paper where it should have been digital message.
Correct. Very good. I just would like to add a little bit on that and to say and to assure the audience in here and the industry that the IGOM is a living manual. Thanks to our IGOM technical group, they work on amending the standards in the IGOM, the process, the procedures, and look for new ones, correct the existing one, and eliminate that process in the future that will not be needed due to our evolution in RAMP or in the future. Any other questions from the floor, please, on that before I move to Ksenia from Qatar Aviation Services? No? Well, Ksenia, I pronounced it right this time?
Almost.
Oh my God, I didn't. I'll be there. Okay, you took us for a very nice journey on the baggage dashboard. It's very, very important, very vital to our industry, very vital also personally to all of us. When we travel, we need the bag. Where is the bag? How are we going to fix it? How are we going to look at it? And you find a solution, how to track it. Why we need this system? Well, I just said it maybe, but why we really need this system? And what are the benefits out of it?
Yeah. Well, we need a system if we are speaking about the hub environment. We need a system when we have information that most of our baggage flow is actually transfer back, and we have a specific time frame that we can act. Before the solution, we've been more reactive than proactive. So the system is giving us situational awareness what will happen in the given time frame. With this information, we can actually influence on our performance. We can influence on the final results, which is actually connecting the bag together with the passenger.
Excellent, excellent. Any question on that subject from the floor? No? I just go back to Anne, what she stated, and I go to you because both of them go under one umbrella, which is called disruption. And disruption as you mentioned perfectly, you know, when you were saying the passengers more than us as the frontliners, being at the counters, checking in the passengers, knowing our flight is being on time. Thanks to Google and Amazon, you know, that have driven us to that type of disruption. And without the gate agent knows that the aircraft is on time or not, the passengers knows more. So you see the speed, the industry, the agility that the industry is driving forward on that. So we really need to look at disruption as an opportunity, right? It's a challenge for us, but we should take it as an opportunity how we be moving forward with it. And we won't let, you know, the Amazon, the Googles, and the others, you know, IT development to go. So for both of you, probably we share that question, and you're welcome to answer it. How, when we end up in an era of disruption, how are we going to control the resources during this disruption happening from the resources point of view? How would it affect?
I think there's two aspects to that. Firstly, the likes of Google publishing information about your operation, use it to your advantage, you know,
Yes.
and that to be open-minded around the way in which communications happen, but control that it is the information that you wish to be shared is important. So kind of jump on the back of those disruptions rather than seeing them as a competition, see them for their advantages that they can bring. The other aspect is around a cultural change, and many of the concepts that we've articulated in our Nextt vision don't require some major technological revolution. In fact, the technology is already available. But what it does require is a workforce that are willing to embrace a different approach of doing things. And so much of it is around cultural change than a technology change.
Thank you, Anne. Christina.
Yes, I will agree with Anne. And if you saw one of our slides, actually, we don't need real-time staff allocation always for disruption scenarios. We are actually using the backview tool in order to get the visibility about the performance of the staff, and also visibility if we have any free resources, how we can reallocate them. So everything is about the data processing. If we have information in advance, we can actually influence on the final outcome.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Very well done. Dear delegates, any questions from the floor for Anne and Kesnia before? No? On this note, I would like to thank you. The delegates would like to thank you as well for being here. I hope, you know, because it is really something that we all need to do, something that we really need to look forward, how together we are going to build our future, our aviation future. And we should look seriously into it on those terms that we've spoken about before. And together, it's better. And of course, as Qatar Airways always say, we go places together. Ladies and gentlemen, on this note, please join me to thank Anne and Kesnia on that panel. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us.